Now, if you struggle to take photos at night and that makes you feel frustrated and makes you lose your confidence, this video is for you. Because in this video, we will talk about 5 easy steps that you can follow to improve your night photography immediately. Now, to take any photo, the first thing we need is light, lots of it. And that's a problem because we simply don't have enough of it when we are shooting in night or low light photography. This means we don't have proper exposure, we don't have detailed subjects, and we certainly don't have highlights, shadows, and color contrast. Now, this is bad. I mean, how are we even going to take a photo like this? So, what are we supposed to do? And the answer is very simple. See, we don't really care about the amount of light available at any given point. All we care about is the amount of light falling on the camera sensor right when we take a photo. And this we can control by controlling the aperture. The first step to improve your night photography is to simply shoot at wider apertures or lower f-stops. You see, when you shoot at wider apertures, all you are doing is opening the lens blades as much as possible. This means you are allowing in much more light on the camera sensor, which means better exposure. With proper exposure, we get more details, more contrast, more colors, and the overall image looks very sharp and clean. Look at these two shots that I took of the Berliner Dome, also known as the Berlin Cathedral. The one on the left has been shot at f8, the one on the right has been shot at f2, and you can immediately see the difference. The photo on the right is much more brighter, has proper exposure. It also has proper contrast, highlights and colors and shadows. And it simply looks a lot sharp and cleaner than the photo on the left. Now there are a couple of trade-offs with this step. Firstly, aperture directly impacts the depth of field. So as you start increasing the aperture or lowering your f-stops, your depth of field starts becoming more shallow. And shallow depth of field give you blurry backgrounds. It also impacts the sharpness of your photo, right? Because you can only get a sharp photo above f5.6, right? There is, however, one trick that you can use to overcome this, and it is called focus stacking. Now, I have created a complete video explaining focus stacking in detail. So, if you are interested, you can watch it here or here. But in a nutshell, in focus stacking, you basically take the same shot multiple times with different focal points. And then in Photoshop, you merge all of them together to create one final photo. And this makes sure that you have focus in all different areas of the same photo. And hence the resulting photo looks sharp. Now I can only open the aperture as wide as the lens allows. So for example, in this 50 mm f2 lens, the lowest f-stop I can go is f2. That's the widest I can open the aperture, right? So what happens in the situation when we need more light and we simply cannot open the aperture wide enough? We are limited by the lens we are using. And this brings us to step 2. We need to reduce our shutter speed. Now the camera sensor has a door and that's called a shutter and hence the name shutter speed. So shutter speed simply means the speed at which that door or shutter of the camera closes when you take a photo. You can also think of it like filling water in a bucket from a tap. Shutter speed here is the speed at which you open and close that tap. So if you open and close the tap really quickly, you will have very less water or less light. And if you open that tap and then close it after 1 hour, then you will have much more water or light, right? Now, for night photography, we need more light, which means we need to have longer shutter speeds. Now I shot these photos of the iconic Fernsehturm or TV tower in Berlin. Both photos have the same aperture, but the one on the left is on faster shutter speed and the one on the right has slower shutter speed. And you can see the difference. Now when you use longer or slower shutter speeds, the camera basically captures everything, including movement. This is what we call motion blur. Now we get two types of motion blur, right? The first is the ugly one that you get when you just use your hands to take photos. These are where the subjects are blurry and edgy and nothing is in focus. The other are the more cinematic and artistic like light trails, star trails, or blur of people moving in certain direction and all that. Now, a lot of people are into motion blur. They find it very artistic and cinematic. And if you are one of them, then really nice. You have a really creative attitude. But if not, then we come to the next step. The third step of improving your night photography is to use a tripod or optical image stabilization. Now, when you use your camera on a tripod, you basically eliminate any kind of handheld motion blur. You start getting very clean and sharp photos. But remember, you cannot freeze motion, right? So if you're using longer shutter speeds like 1 second or 2 second, then you really cannot eliminate light rays or start rays, for example. You cannot freeze any motion. Now, another way to eliminate blur is to use the OIS or optical image stabilization option in your lens or camera. So, a lot of lenses nowadays come with these OIS buttons. In fact, I'm shooting this video currently with an 18 to 55 f2.8 lens, and it also has the OIS option. And I use this lens a lot for my low light photography, night photography even. And I don't even need to use a tripod if I'm shooting at 1 by 10, the 1 by 15th of a second, right? But do remember that you will still need to use a tripod if you're using longer shutter speeds like, half a second, 1 second, or 2 seconds. Then you cannot avoid it. Now let's say you are shooting with a wide aperture and you have reduced your shutter speed even and you are using a tripod, right? And still the scene looks very dark. So what can we do now? This brings us to the fourth step. We just need to brighten the scene or subject. Now you can brighten up your scene or subject in a couple of ways. The first way to do that is to increase your ISO. Now ISO or ISO or whatever it is called, it's an artificial gain or light that the camera introduces to brighten up your scene or subject. The problem with ISO is that it also brings a lot of digital noise in your photo. Now, if you're using very expensive or full frame cameras, you might not even notice this until ISO 16,000, for example. But if you're using cheaper or affordable options, or let's say you are using crop sensor cameras, then you will notice digital noise very quickly and it looks very ugly and it is very, very hard to get rid of. You can only get rid of this digital noise if you're using professional editing softwares like Photoshop or Topaz AI, for example. Now, a much more cleaner way to brighten up your scene or subject is to use a flash or use surrounding lights. Now, when we are using flash, our goal is to basically fill in the shadows. We don't want to use a flash too much and overexpose the photo. Another way of using flash is to bounce it over the walls or ceiling and not point it on the subject directly. This means you will have much more proper exposure and you will avoid taking an overexposed photo. Now, if you don't have a flash, then you can also use the surrounding lights to brighten up your scene or subject. You can even throw in a couple of reflectors like the gold or white reflector, silver reflector to bounce those surrounding lights and get much more light than available. So if you're shooting a portrait or street photography, for example, or your subject is a person, try bringing them closer to the surrounding lights and you can use the reflector on the opposite direction to create a much more brighter scene, right? Or try bringing your subject closer to a window if you're shooting indoors so that the light basically falls from one side over their face, right? This is how you can do it. Now at this point, we have done everything in our power to take a great photo at night by changing our camera settings, right? We are now shooting at a wider aperture with reduced shutter speed. We are also using a tripod and we have moved ourselves or the subject to a brighter scene, right? Maybe we are also using a flash. So now you go ahead and take a photo. But unfortunately, this is not what you were expecting. Your photo still looks dark, flat, and it looks like it's missing a lot of details. So, what went wrong? This brings us to the last step. The last step is to use the correct file format, which is RAW format. You see, RAW formats are basically uncompressed, lossless, and unprocessed, which means they are basically raw. They have all the details of the scene available for post processing without any contamination. So, the photos in RAW formats might look flat in the beginning, but they allow you to basically edit in any way you want. Compared to this, if you're using JPEG file formats, you have already lost a lot of details even before you start editing or post processing. And we certainly don't want that. We want all details of the subject and scene, especially when we are shooting low light or night photography. Alright, so this is it. Now you know how to take a great photo at night by following these 5 simple steps. Also, if this video was helpful to you in any way, please consider subscribing to the channel and giving this video a thumbs up. My main motivation is to make learning photography as easy and accessible as possible. So if you give this video a thumbs up, the algorithm will encourage this content more and more beginner photographers will learn from it and see it, right? Also, let me know in the comments below if you tried these settings and did it improve your night photography, or are there other challenges that you face while shooting in low light, and we will see what we can do about it, right? Right, so I really hope you enjoyed your sets. I certainly did. I hope you go out more, shoot more, take more photos, and have a lot of fun. I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.